Thank you everyone for joining us for Hospitality Tomorrow Gives. I'm delighted to be here with Brett TOLLMAN, the CEO of the Travel Corporation internationally, a collection of 25 exceptional travel and tourism brands from hotels, tour operators, river cruises, an entire mix covering 2 million people a year until the world was locked down, and in 2020 celebrating its centenary. However, as we all know, our industry has been brought to a grounding halt by an invisible pandemic that has the entire world literally in lockdown, waiting to be able to reach out again. But Brett is one of the leaders that we've asked to join us at the beginning of Hospitality Tomorrow Gives, as he is one of the leaders who stepped up right up front to support the frontliners and make sure that his businesses are honoring those people who are stepping up to keep us all safe. So Brett, welcome, and thank you dearly for joining us.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Jonathan. Wonderful to see you both, as always.
Yeah, lovely to see you, Brett.
Brett, a question for you. You have a remarkable portfolio, a remarkable business, and a remarkable family that has put this as their life's work. And since March, you have been out on the front line, supporting frontliners, both in the medical community and in local communities, as well as your business, to allow them to be able to benefit from the strength of your business at a time when they need it most. What exactly have you been doing, and how did it all start?
Okay. Well, one forward is, I don't think we've done enough, and I would like to preface these comments with that, and I appreciate you including us here, but I think, with that premise that there is so much to do and so many people to support, I would add that we're not here to beat our chest or to say what a great job we've done, and I question why you invited us to join. But that said, one never wants to miss the opportunity to share a story and to be a part of something great like this. So thank you. And it also inspires us to remember the cause and keep doing what we do. And as importantly, prepare for what potentially comes this winter in the Northern Hemisphere. So, and I appreciate you hosting this at this time, because with the end of the Northern Hemisphere summer, we all do need to remember that this isn't going away. This pandemic obviously does not follow a calendar, and so it's not going to be over at December 31, which I was certainly thinking early on that, this too shall pass soon. But I think we all need to be prepared for what may continue for some time, which therefore reiterates that we need to keep supporting those less privileged than us or who are doing valiant work on the front lines. So this all started collectively, frankly. A number of the family, Gavin TOLLMAN from Trafalgar, my sister Vicky, who's involved with Red Carnation, my parents, we all recognized, from watching the news and knowing what was going on, that these people deserved support. So we believe in the cumulative effect rather than the big statement, and therefore, rather than making any donations, which we didn't think were appropriate, especially during the pandemic where people were losing their jobs, our teams are working on reduced hours. One always has to look after your own family first. We thought we would do this cumulative effect by encouraging and suggesting to any of our team who are in furlough, working from home and so forth, to get out and find what they could do in their local community, whether it was supporting someone in a grocery store, what we could do to help our emergency medical support teams, supporting a hospital. And that initiative, or that seed, has really built a beautiful momentum, especially in London, I would say, with Red Carnation Hotels, with our 6 hotels there. In lockdown, we had anywhere from 10 to 20 people working from those hotels. They all were incredible and show the hearts they have, like so many in this industry. And I think the word hospitality comes forth when all of us couldn't go out and serve the customer per se. We did look to who else we could serve. And some of these stories, which I'll send through to you because there's so many of them, are just amazing in terms of, having baked Easter eggs for some people, and then due to lockdown and not being able to get them to the hospital, we ended up giving them to some of our disadvantaged team members who are working at home without a steady income, and who had young children at home that they could do an Easter egg hunt with, or walking dogs for medical workers who were away from home all day, and by again engaging them when they came home at night in the local community, able to do that, giving out vouchers for afternoon teas in some of our hotels, in Ireland, in Dorset, in Guernsey. I mean, we volunteered at supermarkets, we've helped stock shelves, we've cooked for people, we've volunteered at food retailers. In Ireland, we were delivering comfort packages to local health centers, from our kitchens. We provided various vouchers. Our purchasing manager in Geneva at the Hotel d'Angleterre is a professional fireman, so he volunteered at our local brigade. Some of our housekeeping teams in London, Geneva, or elsewhere have made hundreds of face masks for public services teams given out at our local city halls. We've made afternoon teas and delivered them to workers at the Geneva hospital. At home every week, we pack up 100 meals on a Saturday night, Sunday morning, that we deliver to a friend of my wife's who delivers food to homeless shelters. And obviously, that's kind of a developing one, obviously. As we know, WTTC's reported that probably 120 million people directly and indirectly related to our industry will have lost their jobs by the end of the year. And you think of, certainly in the US, the government has now not stepped in to prevent foreclosures on homes. You just think of the hundreds of thousands of people who are going to be added to potentially homeless situations on top of the millions of people that are now going to be unemployed, and not knowing when this recovery comes and what that's going to entail for these people. So, we're currently, frankly, stepping up with some who've been laid off, or even our own team who are working on 24 hours, and seeing how we can support them financially where they can't afford to feed their family each week. So, that's not a part of your purview here, but it is hospitality and looking after others, obviously. And I was brought up to believe support starts at home, and then you branch out from there, that the closest, and then people who pull the strings of your heart, obviously. So I'd also like to commend our Uniworld team and our Contiki team, with Uniworld Cruises in the US. Ellen Bettridge, our chief executive there, put out an initiative called Recognizing Our Heroes, and we're giving away 25 Uniworld cruises next year, or 2022, to members of the medical teams, grocery stores, and so forth. And how we got them nominated was we went out to our past guest database here in the US, and we asked them to nominate firemen, policewomen, medical support staff, grocery workers. And we received over 1,500 nominations in a matter of 2 weeks. And Ellen's team is now going through to choose the most 25 worthy causes that they believe, mean the most to them. And then we're going to look to crowdfund the flights, so that these people will get a trip paid for by Uniworld. It'll be the individual and their significant other cruising with our compliments, and then we'll find a way to get them the plane tickets to get there and back when Americans can travel next year. And then Contiki has done something similar with a similar program called Incredible Humans, which will be to nominate from our past guests and travelers people that our younger generation also want to nominate. And then we'll be doing a similar thing, giving away some Contiki trips, some optional vouchers and so forth to recognize them. But as I say, these are all drops in the bucket, and I certainly don't want to be saying we've done a great job or how well we've done, because I think there is so much more we could have done and should have done in retrospect.
Brad, I mean, thank you for sharing those stories. They're certainly, absolutely inspirational. How are you actually sharing these stories? And what you're doing for for communities and for your frontline staff?
We share some of these stories internally. Obviously, it's good for the team to be inspired and to get ideas on how to do more in their local community. obviously recognizing it is volunteering, and if someone has a fragile parent at home they're having to look after, we don't want them to go out there and potentially bring the virus home. But that's all, Jonathan. This is not something that deserves or needs PR, and we didn't do it with that in mind, obviously. So this is the first time we've spoken about it, and we're certainly not planning to change that tack.
It's interesting you say that, if I can just jump in, Jonathan, because this is why I love working with Jonathan. Recognizing people like yourself and the other CEOs that are starting is also seeing that no one has profiled this. No one has sought out PR. It's just leaders stepping up and doing what they feel is right. And like you're saying, feeling that there's never enough you can do. But I think that's why I love working with Jonathan, because he recognizes that as well. And that's where it's a matter of, then we're going to use Hospitality Tomorrow's community to get the attention on leaders like yourself, to also encourage other people to just do what they think is right. There's no model for it. And also, if they can, to support you going forward, should they choose to.
I thank you for that, Anita and Jonathan, but there's so much work to do out there. People should and can do something in their own domain. So don't donate, because I think you'll feel better if you do something like, as I say, the homeless issue is just terrible. Here in Los Angeles, we had 60,000 homeless people before COVID, and I don't know what it'll be afterwards, but we know those numbers are growing. We see it outside the Veterans Administration building with all these tents out there. It's just heartbreaking. And go, if you feel you want to help, then identify a homeless shelter or someone dealing with food security issues. There's 50 or 60 million Americans that cannot feed their families 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, and I'm sure it's the same in the UK, and those numbers are growing. So if you want to give back, I think the most meaningful and purpose-driven way you can do that is to get your hands dirty and do something yourself. Use that money you were going to donate and go buy some food supplies and help that way, because that way you spent that money most effectively in a grocery store. There's no markup for overhead, and then you go personally get that into someone's hands, I think is the most beautiful way to do it, or volunteer at a food shelter or something like that, because then you're really doing something in your local community, and I think you'll feel very good about it.
Brett, if I could just follow on from what you said earlier about, that you haven't done enough and you'd like to do more. What is it you would like to do more of?
I mean, everything. Get more of our people to volunteer. I'd like to get up to 200 bag lunches a week that my wife and I are doing. Just everywhere you see it, the US is obviously spiking right now. So what you went through in April, May, where your hospitals were overflowing and the medical staff were, not doing well at all with the hours and the stress they were putting in, and seeing people dying all around them. The US is going through that. So finding a way to better support some of the nurses and doctors out there. For some time, we would drive on a Saturday night and all applaud them as you would do on Thursday nights. Not meaningful, but a little emotional support, trying to drum up some of that again. My wife and I know a couple of emergency room nurses, and we bought them lunches before. So we haven't done that in a couple of months. So this event today reminded me that, we need to go back and support them. I've asked all of our brands to look at following in the footsteps of Uniworld and Contiki and doing more of these giveaways and engaging our past travelers to nominate these people. And then, hopefully as soon as some business returns and we're back on a strong footing from a cash flow standpoint, seeing what else we can do from a physical donation standpoint. But I think there's plenty we can be doing from a volunteering standpoint. All of us, we just got to challenge ourselves and be reminded of it.
Brilliant. Brett, before I hand over to Jonathan and we start to close, I have a question for you. Because you pivoted really beautifully this whole conversation and saying, don't donate. You're not wanting people to do that. You're wanting them to do, no. It's brilliant, because you've highlighted two things. Firstly, to your point, everyone can do something, and it's not about scale, just do something. But you also hit something really, really important right up front when you talked about all the different businesses and their involvement. One of the great challenges of watching frontliners is it makes people not on the front line feel helpless. Mm-hmm. And by getting people volunteering, participating, you're giving them a sense of worth. What have you learned through this experience about the ability to help others, actually helping your teams stay motivated and stay focused that we will get through this?
So every week I put out a couple of very short videos, 1 minute, that my 13-year-old son records for me in the garden, as everyone is doing in leadership, reinforcing the importance of empathy for our leadership team and how important it is for us to be listening to what our people are feeling and going through, and then giving us a guide on what we need to do to better support them. And then I do a monthly update as well, sharing examples of some of the great work that's being done out there to hopefully shine a light on not just the people and what they're doing, but examples of how we can share best practices and say, you know, do something, start today, don't delay, don't wait until you can do something bigger. Anything meaningful that just, you know, is a handout to someone, metaphorically speaking, since we can't give hugs anymore and so forth, is again just sharing examples and encouraging everyone, if they want to step up and try to do something, and do it today. Don't wait to try to collect something more meaningful. You know, we've had to stop food drives and so forth that we're doing before within the offices, being no one's there, and with a lot of our teams working on reduced hours, you know, from London to Los Angeles. The cost of transport is significant for them. So we're certainly not, you know, forcing them to do any of that right now when, you know, economic conditions for a lot of our own teams still very constrained.
Stunning. Thank you. Jonathan, I will hand it over to you to do the honors of the close.
Well, I wanted just to quickly ask you, Brett, also, you know, is there an individual or within your company or outside that has shown exemplary leadership during this time?
I would just salute the whole industry, whether you look at Mark at Hyatt or Arnie at Marriott, Chris at Hilton. You know, I think they've all done remarkable jobs. When you look at Claridge's, even in London, and putting 40 rooms aside for medical workers. I just salute everyone, and you too. You know, I think this industry has shown during this pandemic just what big hearts we have from every corner of the world. And I just commend everyone for what we're going through, and to be able to think of others when you're fighting for your own economic survival, I think just shows what big hearts we have in this industry. And I thank everyone, and I wish everyone the best, not just of good health and safety, but that we all have the ability to see this through. And again, I thank you both for doing this, because I think it's so outstanding.
Well, thank you, Brett, because you're one particular leader who is always willing to hop on one of these webinar conferences and talk about the challenges and issues that you're facing as a business and as an individual. So we're all learning from each other, and we appreciate, because you know what you're doing for us and for the industry, and love these stories that you know you've put in place, that these initiatives that you've put in place within the Red Carnation Group and the extended family there, because it's certainly something that others can look upon as ideas, and how they can also do the same thing if they aren't already.
Right.
But on behalf of Anita and myself, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will indeed be in touch, and I'm sure we'll be seeing each other very soon.
Look forward to it, Jonathan. Stay well. Congratulations on the engagement, and all the best to you, Anita. That beautiful smile just
that's true.
Makes my day. Thank you both.